This vast perpetual motion, taught and held in the mysterious and unchanging change of the persistent movement we call time, and ever renewing its recurrent beat, these mobile rounds that stereotype a flux, these static objects in the cosmic dance that are but energies, self-repeating whirls, prolonged by the spirit of the brooding void, awaited life and sense, and waking mind. So we are in the Godheads of the little life, no doubt about it, and we have to see about this vast perpetual motion, a motion that is so persistent, that's caught and held in the mysterious and unchanging change. Look at this paradoxical statement, an unchanging change. And Sri Aurobindo, throughout Savitri, uses these paradoxical statements to show us that we cannot understand with our physical minds what he is actually saying, because it is written so far above the mind. So if we go down to the next line, we see that something, we have to take it within our souls, in the mysterious and unchanging change of what? Of the persistent movement we call time. Because persistent is insistently repetitive or continuous or enduring, we could say. Now, he says in the essays on the Gita, time and space are the conceptual movement and extension of the Godhead in us. And they are not limited, they are infinite. So, and ever renewing its recurrent beat, recurrent means coming again and again, these mobile rounds that stereotype a flux. Well, we have three words here, very interesting. Mobile or mobile is flowing freely, changeable or changing easily in, we could say, expression or mood or purpose. Then stereotype is to make or fix conventional, formulaic. So we have these free-flowing rounds, mobile rounds, that stereotype, that make it a formulaic system, a flux. The flux is, again, constant or frequent change. So we see all these words Sri Aurobindo is using are all speaking of one thing. And I go back a little bit here to, in the mysterious and unchanging change of the persistent movement we call time. Now it's beginning to be a little clearer, and ever renewing its recurrent beat, these mobile rounds that stereotype a flux, these static objects in the cosmic dance that are what? That are but energies, self-repeating whirls. A whirl is a spiral or a swirling movement, prolonged by the spirit of the brooding void. And we've talked about brooding before, as here concentrating on or deeply meditating on awaited life and sense and waking mind. Now, Sri Aurobindo tells us in a letter on yoga that very important, I want to read to you about the mind. The mind, in the ordinary use of the word, covers indiscriminately the whole consciousness. For man is a mental being and mentalizes everything. But in the language of this yoga, the words mind and mental are used to connote specially the part of the nature which has to do with cognition and intelligence, with ideas, with mental or thought perceptions, the reactions of thought to things, with the truly mental movements and formations, mental vision and will, etc., that are part of his intelligence. So mind, he tells us in the Life Divine, in its essence, is a consciousness which measures, limits, cuts out forms of things from the indivisible whole and contains them as if each were a separate integer. A little, the dreamer changed his pose of stone. The dreamer is the prophet, the visionary. But when the inconscient, scrupulous work was done, scrupulous is conscientious and exact, painstaking, attentive and careful in every detail, and chance, coerced by fixed, immutable laws, a scene was set for nature's conscious play. So now we come to the denouement of this whole thing. All of these things are leading to this one thing. We see here that, let me go back to the beginning, because we have to take time on these things. And so we see this vast perpetual motion, caught and held in the mysterious and unchanging change of the persistent movement we call time, and ever renewing its recurrent beat. Recurrent, of course, is reappearing, occurring again and coming again. These mobile rounds that stereotype a flux, these static objects in the cosmic dance that are but energies, self-repeating worlds. So here he gives us the key. These are just energies, self-repeating worlds, prolonged by the spirit of the brooding void, awaited life and sense and waking mind. A little, the dreamer changed his pose of stone. In other words, Thomas. But when the inconscious, scrupulous work was done, what happens now? We see, and even chance, coerced by fixed, immutable laws, a scene was set for nature's conscious play. Nature here capitalized. And we see that nature is the universe with all its phenomena. But nature is more than that, because Sri Aurobindo tells us nature is an active force of conscious being, which realizes itself in its powers of self-experience, its powers of knowledge, will, self-delight, self-formulation, with all their marvelous variations, inversions, conservations, and conversions of energy. Even perversions is what we call Prakriti, or nature, in ourselves as in the cosmos. And that's the synthesis of yoga. And one more from the Life Divine. All nature is simply the seer will, the knowledge force of the conscious being at work to evolve in force and form all the inevitable truth of the idea into which it has originally thrown itself. For nature is nothing but the will of God in action, essays divine and human. Then stirred the spirit's mute, immobile sleep. So it stirs. The force concealed broke dumbly, slowly out. And what happens next? A dream of living woke in matter's heart. So this is the first involution of the spirit into matter. Now we know that matter is simply a structure of energy, but the spirit enters into matter like a dream of living that wakes in the matter's heart. And he says then, a will to live moved the inconscious dust. A freak of living startled vacant time, ephemeral in a blank eternity, infinitesimal in a dead infinite. Ephemeral, transitory, lasting only for a short time. Infinitesimal, incalculably minute. Vladimir, haven't heard from you in a long time. Can you shed some Vedic light on this?
Yeah. Well, this is a profound beginning of all creation. Is described how life came into being in this dream of living woke in matter's heart. I was thinking about his rounds of these stereotypes, stereotyping fluxes, and
Yes.
making this constant. And I was thinking why everything is rotating in the universe. And everything is moving around itself and around the center. And the whole thing moves around the whole galaxy, around the center of the galaxy. Everything moves around again and again and again.
Yes, we call it the Great Wheel.
Right.
The great wheel. Everything is in movement.
And around, kind of repeating rounds. And why this repetition of rounds? Yes. And I thought, if we think of, if we don't move in rounds, we will not be able to systematize the being in matter. So we need repetition. It's like we are making it more and more tangible, or more and more settled, or more and more real, as it were. More and more real. Yeah? So the reality can manifest.
Yes, and of course, all evolution is spiral.
Right.
We don't evolve in a flat plane. There's always an upward movement, even though it may seem at times to be flat. There is always this upward movement. So we see that there's a will to live that has moved this dust of the inconscient. We see that a freak of living startled vacant time. Time is incalculable, and yet it's startled by this freak of living. And it's ephemeral in a blank eternity. It's infinitesimal in a dead infinite. A subtler breath quickened dead matter's forms. The world's set rhythm changed to a conscious cry. A serpent power twinned the insensible force. And this is what you were suggesting, Vladimir, that this world's rhythm is even changing to a more conscious cry. But this serpent power is very important because it twinned the insensible force. Islands of living dotted lifeless space, and germs of living formed in formless air. A life was born that followed matter's law. Ignorant of the motives of its steps, ever inconstant, yet forever the same, it repeated the paradox that gave it birth. Its restless and unstable stabilities, another paradox, recurred incessantly in the flow of time, and purposeful movements in unthinking forms. I have to go to the next page for just a moment. Betrayed the heavings of an imprisoned will. To betray is to deceive something, to lead something astray, to indicate something, even in this case. The heavings, the great upward movement, especially a rhythmical rising and falling. And this imprisoned will. The will here is the energy that creates the world. And it's nothing less than a will. But will is only consciousness applying itself to a work and a result. Sri Aurobindo tells us that in the Life Divine. Will is the pressure of a conscious force on nature. And that is from his letters on yoga. In the Life Divine, he says, what becomes desire in the ego is will in the spirit. Very, very important. I'll just do 3 more lines. Waking and sleep lay locked in mutual arms. Helpless and indistinct came pleasure and pain, trembling with the first faint thrills of a world soul. Notice that he not only hyphenates world soul, but he capitalizes both the W and the S. This world soul is very, very important. He says the world is a great game of hide and seek, in which the real hides behind the apparent, spirit behind matter. And that we find in his essays in philosophy and yoga. And then he tells us in the Life Divine, the world expresses a foreseen truth, obeys a predetermining will, realizes an original formative self-vision. And then he has a couple of dashes because he wants to know that it is the growing image of a divine creation. So beautiful. Now I have to ask someone if they will read this challenging section. And so far I've had 2 people who've read it perfectly. So may I ask for the 3rd? Now, if I don't ask, I'm going to ask Vladimir. So someone will have to make a decision here. You don't have to read perfectly. Anyone who reads Savitri reads it as perfectly as they can. And this is so important to me because there is no one way to read Savitri. There is no wrong reading of Savitri. We may stutter and stumble if English is not our first language, but it doesn't matter because if the mantric force can flow out through the consciousness of the reader, the aspiration of the reader, the devotion of the reader, everything is perfect. So may I ask someone to read?
I guess you mentioned my name, so everybody.
I guess I did.
They all kind of thinking that's inevitable. All right. Tomorrow, Mother and Cherubim to come together for the yoga, for the integral yoga to succeed and to lead us forward.
Yes, and 6:30 in the morning I go.
Yes, wonderful. We will have in the evening here gathering. I guess it will be morning time, your morning time.
Wonderful, wonderful.
This vast perpetual motion caught and held in the mysterious and unchanging change of the persistent movement we call time, and ever renewing its recurrent beat, these mobile rounds that stereotype a flux, these static objects in the cosmic dance that are but energy's self-repeating whirls, prolonged by the spirit of the brooding void, awaited life and sense and waking mind. A little the dreamer changed his pose of stone, but when the inconscious, scrupulous work was done, and chance, coerced by fixed, immutable laws, a scene was set for nature's conscious play. Then stirred the spirit's mute, immobile sleep. The force concealed broke dumbly, slowly out. A dream of living woke in matter's heart. A will to live moved the inconscious dust. A freak of living startled vacant time. Ephemeral in a blank eternity, infinitesimal in a dead infinite. A subtler breath quickened dead matter's forms. The world's set rhythm changed to a conscious cry. A serpent power twinned the insensible force. Islands of living dotted lifeless space, and gems of living formed in formless air. A life was born that followed matter's law, ignorant of the motives of its steps, ever inconstant, yet forever the same. It repeated the paradox that gave it birth. Its restless and unstable stabilities recurred incessantly in the flow of time, and purposeful movements in unthinking forms betrayed the heavings of an imprisoned will. Waking and sleep lay locked in mutual arms, helpless and indistinct came pleasure and pain, trembling with the first faint thrills of a world's soul.
Thank you so much. And I think I've resolved the problem in that Firefox is not working well for me. I went back to Chrome and it uploaded immediately. So hopefully I won't be late next week. Thank you all.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste all.